in fact, the cartoon business was quite an infant thing itself. All the animation was made in New York. They used to have Fables and I was the Inkwell and 2 or 3 others, but it was...
I guess the best way to bet is just to go back to the beginning and start with your own origins in animation and how you met Walt Disney and what that led to.
No, I just answered an ad in the paper. Walt was then the KC Studios, an artist, and I thought I was an artist, but I really wasn't a cartoonist. So I went out and I got a job making painting. In fact, Walt was then working at the film ad, and so was the guy running the camera at Lions. That was an old organization. So I inked them, and then of course it was all paper drawings. You ink the paper, animators drawing, and that's what I did. And then I finally got into the whole routine of the cameraman left, and I learned camera work, and we built a camera, and went on from there. That's why I got into it, really.
Had you had any interest in animation before this, or was it specifically animation, or was it just...
No, in fact, I had no idea what animation was at the time. I was just going to try to get a job in art. I didn't care any particular kind. But in fact, Walt didn't know too much about animation either then.
Well, I get it.
But the only thing we had was the Lux book.
Was Hugh Harmon with Walt this time, or?
No, Hugh knew Walt, but through his brothers. See, Fred Harmon and Walt, I think, started the KC Studios, and then Fred left. And Walt had the thing himself. And then, Hugh came in about a year later after we formed Laugh-O-Grams.
Now, at this time, when you first went to work with Walt, was he actually in business for himself?
Yeah, it was his own business, and they weren't making anything at the time I can remember of except probably a sort of a news thing for the Newman Theater back there, just for the one theater.
Was he working for someone else then too, or just?
Yeah, he was working at the film ad, Kansas City Film Ad, and I think they had something, had a deal with Pathé, but actually the deal only amounted if it got something good, Pathé would buy it. I know they shot stuff, but I don't think they ever got anything in the Pathé news.
I think Bob mentioned something that he had heard you describing how you and Walt would remove the camera on the weekends to take...
No, that wasn't me. I never did work at the film ad. No, Walt used to sneak the camera out at night, and we'd shoot at night, and then he'd take it back the next morning. I don't know, he'd crawl out the camera. Apparently it was down in the basement. There was a camera room, film ad, and he'd hand it, Red would hand it out to him, and he'd put it in the bushes or somewhere, and then they'd take it, and then they'd get it back early the next morning. And Calder, the guy who ran the film, had caught him one time. And I think by that time we'd formed Laugh-O-Grams, and there was a little money, and I think then he bought the camera. It was an old Universal, 200-foot magazine load.
When did you actually start animating? You said you were inking it the very first.
Oh, well, and I got into the whole phase of it, actually, animation, and the live shooting, what you did, and animation. Of course, there were no assistants then. You either animated or you didn't animate. He got these people interested in incorporated for $15,000, for which we made about, I think, eight Laugh-O-Gram films.
The boys might be interested to see your stock certificate later, Rudy, if you have a chance, the Laugh-O-Gram stock.
No, something. That was a very funny thing, and it was still KC Studios. And we were at above this, where the studio then was above the restaurant at Piser's. I don't know if they're still there. And the cop came in 2 or 3 times, and he wanted to know if Walt Disney was there, and then Dinsey, he called him, Walt Disney. And they'd say, no, he's not here, and Walt was sitting right there in the office most of the time. You know, it wasn't an office, just a thing with a railing across. And then so Walt would talk to the guy, and we'd have a nice conversation. This happened about 4 or 5 times. And then the final time, the guy came up and says, Mr. Disney in today, or Dinsey? And I said, no, he's not here. You missed again. And then somebody came from the back of the thing and says, hey, Walt. And he just looked at him. So I handed him the summons. Of course, the summons was for about 3 or 4 bad checks that Walt had passed. So I covered for Walt on that. I had to have the money to do it. And then when we formed Laugh-O-Grams, all I got was stock. The deal with pictorial clubs was, I think, for 6 or 9 pictures, I forgot. And the 15,000 we incorporated for, we never got, actually. To think that we made 6 or 7 pictures for probably half of that is quite a thing in itself. And
I wonder what became of all those old films. Are they still in existence somewhere? Or?
Not many of them, I don't think, because then film was the old nitrate stock, and it deteriorated quite a bit.
Well, I've always wanted to see, some of the old Laugh-O-Grams or something.
Yeah, I'd like to see some of them too.
In 1921, Walt Disney was working for the Kansas City Film Ad Service when he became interested in animation. His only source for instruction was Animated Cartoons, How They Are Made, Their Origin and Development by Edwin G. Lutz. With a borrowed camera from his day job, Walt set up his first studio in a shed behind the Disney home. His first experiments were a series of lightning sketch political cartoons produced for the Newman's Theater chain. These film novelties were done completely by Walt Disney. And while there are indications that a series was produced, the following is an example of what is known to have survived. With the success of the Laugh-O-Gram novelties, Disney was eager to produce theatrical cartoons similar to those made in New York. With the help of his friend Rudy Ising, Disney animated Little Red Riding Hood as a training exercise.
In fact, I had no idea what animation was at the time. I was just going to try to get a job in art. I didn't care of any particular kind. But in fact, Walt didn't know too much about animation either. The only thing we had was the Lux book.
This early effort was not publicly released and has remained unseen since 1922. After producing Little Red Riding Hood, Disney progressed to more advanced techniques. He sought out rejected animation cells to save money and began using watercolor backgrounds to achieve a look of tonality. Still working in his spare time, Disney's second cartoon was The Four Musicians of Bremen and was the model for the series that followed. Disney's reputation as an up-and-coming producer was growing. He approached his boss about producing a series of modernized fairy tales for theatrical distribution. His boss passed on this venture, so Disney raised $15,000 through local businessmen, and Laffergram's Films was officially established on May 23, 1922. Disney had a small staff that included Ub Iwerks, Friz Freleng, Hugh Harman, Rudy Ising, Laurie Tague, Otto Walleman, Red Lion, and Max Maxwell. He was confident his product could challenge the competition, but the production value did not attract major distribution. So he accepted a modest non-theatrical deal with Pictorial Clubs of America. Although the contract called for $11,000 for 4 more films, Disney received only a $100 advance on each, with the remaining balance due a year later. Only Puss in Boots and Cinderella are known to have survived. These are the last in the series and show the evolution of Disney's boy and girl characters that seem inspired by Wallace Carlson's Dreamy Dud cartoons. Although pictorial clubs owed Disney a balance on the delivered films, it was never paid. The company went into receivership, and the Laugh-O-Gram studio was faced with bankruptcy. In late June of 1923, Disney headed for Hollywood to become a live-action film director. He sent a test film called Alice's Wonderland to a company in New York and was contacted by Margaret J. Winkler, who distributed the biggest animated series of the 1920s. Seeing potential, she ordered a series of 6 Alice comedies from this unknown producer named Walt Disney. The concept was a reversal of Out of the Inkwell. Disney placed a live-action girl into a cartoon environment, and the contract that followed established Walt Disney as the first animation producer in Los Angeles.